Howdy y'all, TheJTJ here with RollToWound.com. Today we're continuing our deep dive of the Soulblight Gravelords Battletome with the Avengorii Dynasty. So stick around. Alright, we're looking at the Avengorii Dynasty today. They're the monster dynasty, and this will be the last dynasty we cover in this series. Their dynasty, their battle trait, command traits are slightly different than the other dynasties you're looking at, or that we've seen so far in this book. So diving right into the battle traits. So we have Cursed Abominations. If a Soulblight Gravelord army with the Avengorii Dynasty keyword includes any Terrorgeist or any Zombie Dragon, one of those models has a cursed mutation. Choose which model will have a cursed mutation, then pick from or roll on the cursed mutation table opposite. You can choose one additional friendly Avengorii Dynasty Terrorgeist or Avengorii Dynasty Zombie Dragon to have a cursed mutation for each War Scroll battalion in your army. A model cannot have more than one cursed mutation, or an army may not include duplicates of the same curse mutation. So basically, and we'll talk about curse mutations in a bit. Curse mutations are just sort of bonuses that you would get to one of those monsters. Pick a curse mutation for one Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon. The chart is it's 3 you get to choose from, and I'm not excited about them really. There's one that's okay. It's nice. You're getting a little something, and with 3.0, monsters in general have a lot more that they can do. So I think if you take those two things in consideration, it does look somewhat appealing. Getting a second one for a battalion is nice. However, there's no battalions with a monster in it in this book, so I'm hoping that 3.0 this actually works for 3.0, that you will be able to get a second trait for having one of the core battalions in 3.0. The rest of the battle trait is Monstrous Might. Subtract 1 from the wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target friendly Avengorii Dynasty Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragons, or Vampire Monsters unless the attacking unit is a monster. So it's a -1 to hit in melee for monsters. It works on Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragon, Avengorii Lords, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. Very strong trait and a nice way to help keep your big monsters alive. This is a -1 to hit. I know that buffs are capped in the new edition, or debuffs are capped, like minuses, and there's a lot of other ways in the Soulblight to put negative ones to hit on stuff and to wound on stuff. But this is nice. Running around with a -1 to wound bubble on these guys it is a super nice buff. So if you're looking to take some big smashy monsters, that's one of the reasons to take them in here, as opposed to just take them in like Legion of Night or Legion of Blood or something. Next, now there is a third part of their battle traits, which is interesting because most of the other dynasties they only give you 2, but this one is sort of a third one. Unstoppable Nightmares. In the combat phase, you can pick one friendly Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragon, or Vampire Monster to unleash its monstrous power. If you do so until the end of that phase, use the top row of the model's damage table, regardless of how many wounds it's been suffered. The same model cannot benefit from this ability more than once per battle. So this is basically if you're on your last wound, but you really need your Terrorgeist to hit at max, you pop that once per battle. Let them do. It's very similar to Flesh Eater's Courts have that ability with some of their Terrorgeist. So another it's a nice bonus. It's a nice bonus to your monsters. Nothing insanely overpowered. I'm going to give it an A- if you want to run monsters. If you're like, hey, I've got 3 Terrorgeist sitting on a shelf and I really want to bring them, or you're super excited about the Avengorii Lord and how they sort of work, this is an A-. You're getting some good abilities out of this right off the bat. Now, if you're not running at least 2 monsters, look somewhere else. That's just my opinion. I wouldn't go it. These abilities help monsters only, so you wouldn't want to run at least one. I suggest a Terrorgeist. I think, in my opinion, I had this an argument with, not an argument, but a debate with another player over what's better, the zombie dragons or the Terrorgeist. I like Terrorgeist. I like that maul still. The Avengorii Lord also benefits from these, so look to run one of them as one of your heroes. I think the Avengorii Lords, obviously this is their dynasty, sort of what they're modeled after. So I like their points cost here. I like their buffs and abilities. I think they work nicely in this. All unit traits will stack nicely with 3.0 monster rules. And the other note is Terrorgeist as zombie dragons are a battle line. So yes, you can run a 100% all monster army with this. All right, moving right along to command traits. So what makes command traits a little bit different in this dynasty as opposed to the other ones is that there's only 3. You don't get a full list of 6 to pick from. You're only getting 3, and they're okay if you're bringing a monstrous general. The first one is Eye for an Eye. If any wounds or mortal wounds are allocated to this general in the combat phase, add 1 to the damage characteristics of melee weapons used by this general, including their mount, until the end of that phase. Really good on a zombie dragon, vampire lord on zombie dragon. You have to fight second for this to work, so it's nice setting that up. If you're not getting to go first, it might make your opponent think about swinging first on you. It does add a little extra level of strategy. Works on the mount, super good. It's just extra free damage if you've taken some wounds. And vampire lord and zombie dragons tend to heal. They are pretty tanky. So I'm a big fan of this one. All right, the next one is Torment Driven Throws. At the start of combat phase, you can roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 of this general. On a 5, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound and can only attack this general in that phase after this general has already fought in that phase. Great ability, but swingy. Making units fight last is a very good ability, but needing the 5+, it can't be counted on. Now, if you've ever played, against Sylvaneth and the stomps of Tree Lords and stuff, it's very similar to that. In my opinion, you've got to wait for them to swing. It can be game changing. I gave it a B- because it is. When I'm looking at sort of the other two, and I'm like, I don't know which one I want to take. They're more consistent. This can win you the game though. If you run up on something big and you hit it with a you roll that 5 and shut them down, and then you attack first. So it's not like, I wouldn't say not to ever take it. I'm just saying it's something to consider, that it is a little bit swingy. Finally, you get Unhinged Rampager. You can reroll charge rolls for this general. This is great on a general. Possibly not as good as Eye for an Eye, but a consistent command trait. You can re-roll charge rolls. I love the re-rolling charge rolls. Give it an A-. Your vampire lord and zombie dragons, flying across the field. You get that 4 inches away, and then all of a sudden you roll a 3 and you don't get your charge. It's consistent. So I say stay with it. Command trait tactics, there's not really anything tricky here. Unhinged Rampager is probably the pick 75% of the time. Eye for an Eye is also worth looking at. None of these traits are game changers, but all have their place. I think that you can't go wrong picking any of these 3. Like I said, Unhinged Rampager is the most consistent. You're going to get it every turn. Eye for an Eye, it's good. It's going to make people think about swinging first on you. And Torment Driven Throws, it can win you a game, or for sure win you a combat. All right, Artifacts of Power. Once again, they don't get a full list of 6. They're only getting 3. So the first one is Breath of the Void Maul. Once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 6 of the bearer that is visible to them and roll a dice on a 3+. That unit suffers D6 mortal wounds. Once per battle, D6 on a 3+ is a very swingy power. However, if it's right, it's nice. If I hit it and then I do D6 wounds, that's great. But overpower, why not make it per turn? Why couldn't I do this every turn? Because I've already got to pick one enemy unit within 6 and then roll on a 3-up, then roll a d6. I don't think that would be overpowered in the least to have that ability every turn. You're already on, a little bit better than 50% to even have it go off, and then you're still rolling the d6. It's just a super swingy ability that I'm like, no way should it be once per battle. All right, Gorvar's Collar. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can say that the bearer will don Gorvar's Collar. If you do so, you can reroll wound rolls of 1s for attacks made by the bearer that phase. Another once per battle. Reroll wound rolls of 1 in that phase. Why not make it every turn? It's not that powerful. Now, with 3.0 in mind, you are looking for ways to reroll ones. Rerolling ones are looking like that's sort of the new hotness to find within your battle tomes and war scrolls. But still, it's once per battle. Why can't we just get it every turn? Or how about this? I get it all the time, but on a 3-up, something. It's not good. It's, in my opinion, it's not good. All right, the last one is the Furious Crown. Once per battle at the start of your charge phase, you can say that the bearer will unleash the fury of the crown. If you do so after the bearer makes a charge move in that phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of the bearer and roll a number of dice equal to the charge roll for that charge move. For each 5 plus, the enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. Impact hits. Impact hits they're all in this book. They're all in OBR. Impact hits are all over. Why is this got to be once per battle? If it's once per battle, then make it like a 2-up or a 3-up for these impact hits. Then you're rolling a 5. This should actually be an F-. Yeah, you average, so mortals on a 5. Let's say you could do a max of 12. Let's say that you rolled 2 dice and you rolled a 12-inch charge, and then you rolled all 5s. You could max mortal wounds 12. That's good. No one's saying that 12 mortal wounds is bad. However, the odds are very, very low that you do that. The average roll is going to be 7, and then your average 5-ups is going to be about 2 mortal wounds for a once per game ability. It's just, come on. These guys are killing me. Whoever wrote all these once per use abilities are just like very, very. They want to streamline the game. They want to make sure stuff doesn't become OP, but some of the stuff they're picking out to make one uses are just, it blows my mind. Tactics, a bunch of trash. Guess I would take Gover's Collar. It's the only thing that's assured to work, because once per battle at the start of your combat phase, you can don it, and there's no extra roll to make it work. So there you go. Take the collar. That would be my big suggestion. Artifact combo, Unhinged Rampager and the Collar it's about the best you can get in this dynasty, because these are the only ones that consistently work. You know that these 2 abilities are going to go up. If you want more hitting power, go with Eye for an Eye, and if you took Eye for an Eye, I would say there's no problem with that. However, any combination of the 6 will about be the same effect because of the 1 use per game and assurance of working throughout. It's just the artifacts, they just need some help. Okay, so we're sort of griping about the artifacts, but at least you get cursed mutations too. So if you have a general on a zombie dragon, you're going to get a command trait, you're going to get an artifact, and you're going to get a cursed mutation. So at least you're and you've got a couple already buffs from the battle trait. So maybe that was what they were thinking. They're not trying to make these things too powerful, but I think that they've probably fell short a little bit on those artifacts. Sorry to keep harping on that. All right, but we'll talk about curse mutations. So remember, back under the battle traits, you can give 1 curse mutation to a Terrorgeist or a zombie dragon. There is a little bit of argument if you can give it to a vampire lord or a zombie dragon. I believe you can. It is keyworded in bold. It's bolded in the battle trait, and it's bolded on that war scroll. So if I'm wrong, let me know. All right, the first curse mutation is Maddening Hunger. Once per turn at the start of combat, you can pick 1 enemy model with a wound characteristic of 1 that is within 3 inches of this model. If you do so, that enemy model is slain, and you heal 1 wound allocated for that model. Nice ability to snipe out a unit champion or banners. I'm looking at you, Pink Horror Banners. Yep, you run right up on the Pink Horror Banners. you pluck that one out. Going to be very important for you for taking out unit leaders. We already know that unit leaders have abilities to sort of do some of the command abilities. So running up and sniping something out is super good. I like it. I know it's like the Star Dragon, Star Drake. One of those can also do something similar. Just very good all around. Interesting. Now, it's not going to do you any good if you run up against another monster, obviously, but I still like it. Urges of Atrocity. Once per battle, this model can run and still charge later in the same turn. Okay, so this is a one-use ability. Charge and run once per game, not bad, but only once per game. Look to build around this if you want to alpha strike something. So if you took this, it's not like, oh, that's the worst thing ever. But you definitely, it is something to build around. It is sort of that first turn, I'm going to run across the field, alpha strike. So not bad, build around it, and I think it's useful. Finally, Null Blood Construct. Reroll successful casting rolls of wizards within 9 of this model. This is a nice trait that could totally shut down an army like Lumineth, or somebody that has a lot of the casters out. However, if you play an army with limited or no casting, it's a waste, and a lot of armies have bonuses to cast already. But it is a full reroll for those wizards. Successful. So if they successfully cast a spell, they have to reroll that. It's not bad. It's not good. I just run into the fact of sometimes you play armies with no casters or limited casters. Also, it's got to be within 9. So I can see if you're building towards a certain meta that this could be something you take if you're playing a narrative battle and you know that your opponent's going to bring a lot of heavy casters. This is something you take. It's not total bad, but when I'm looking at this versus Maddening Hunger, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take Maddening Hunger. So it might be the second curse mutation that you take for your Terrorgeist or your Zombie Dragons. All right, tactics on these. On a Terrorgeist, take Maddening, Knowbound, and the Urges. These are all very straightforward and can only be used on 3 different units in a book. I think of them as a nice little bonus, but nothing to build your list around. Like Urges is probably the one that you would have to put a little bit more thought on how you're going to play things. But there's nothing here that's game breaking. There's nothing here that you would go, oh, this synergizes super great with this. Maybe Urges with Unhinged Rampager, so you're guaranteed that first turn charge. But other than that, there's nothing super sneaky that's going on with these, I don't think. All right, so Chris left some comments on these. His initial thoughts is for if you want to play a lot of Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragons, then Flesh Eater Court can do that better. Do not fall into the trap of bringing only monsters, even though they can be your battle line. However, where Avengorii shine is with their support units and heroes is much better in Soulblight Gravelords than Feck. You also have the ability to use grave sites to have units pop out of the ground, allowing for good board mobility for your cheaper units while your monsters push up the board and hit the opponent units. I would probably consider the Realm Artifact from Chimon, the Plate of Perfection, that negates the negative rend over the Avengorii artifacts. It's a really good point. So actually looking for your artifacts outside of this book, depending on 3.0 and what those look like, might be the way to go. Because these are a little bit sketchy. He had run 2-3 monsters in 20-man unit or Grey Guard or Blood Knights to support him, Dire Wolves for screening, and Fast Objective. And I think that if you're deciding I'm going to put all my points into Terrorgeist, Zombie Dragons, and big monsters, you can 100% do it. And I think you're going to win a couple games doing that. But you're going to need to bring some screens, bring some fodder, bring some summonable units that can sit back and hold your objectives, or go grab something to the side where you focus, all your monsters maybe in one area. So I do agree. You should have a few extra 100 points here or there to bring some dire wolves or some zombies. When I was constructing a list, remember guys, when I'm making a list, I'm looking at the book and what it's trying to do. This is not necessarily the best list you can build from this. This is just maybe my first take on something I would build within this dynasty. Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, I'm going to give him Pinions, Rampager, and the Collar. I would take a Vengorian Lord with Amaranthian Orb. Terrorgeist with Maddening Hunger. 2 units of dire wolves, 2 units of zombies, and a unit of blood knights. Building around the monsters who will be up the board doing the damage. The zombies can screen if you're worried about alpha strike. Dire wolves to take out their chaff or grab objectives. The blood knights are some added punch on a flank to take out small unit babysitting objectives. And I do like the idea of a small unit of blood knights in this, even though you're sort of losing out on some of the cool other traits you could do with them, but they do make a nice little flanking unit. They take out some chaff. They can hit a screen, maybe take enough mortals or take enough models off that when your vampire lord charges or piles in, they can sort of get around that. I just say, if you're looking at this, yes, stay monster focused, stay monster heavy, but don't 100% commit to just monsters. Have a few units of zombies or a few units of dire wolves, whatever flavor, other models, whatever you feel that you want to bring some of that stuff. And that's going to do it. That is the Avengorii Dynasty. Thanks for watching, and y'all be good.